How's it going, everyone? Hope you're all keeping well and welcome back to a new video. Today we are at round 2 of the RTA MX5 World Series from Lime Rock Park. If you missed the first round at Okayama, make sure you give that one a check. Before we get into this one, link in the top right. And before we get into this one then, a quick look at the standings after that first round. You can see Conor Melia leading the way, myself down in 22nd place, a long way down, just 7 points on the board with that 15-point penalty for the collision we had in race 2 last week. But as I mentioned, Lime Rock this week, real rookie racing here, MX5s around one of the original 3 tracks on iRacing. A very tricky little track, especially in these cars, to get the lines right and carry the speed while also not overcommitting and sliding too far. As some of you may know if you're familiar with iRacing, 2 layouts of this track. One with the chicane, which we are coming up to here now, where you turn right, but the one we are using today is the classic circuit, where we don't take that chicane, we take the much faster line around the outside, which should hopefully mean that there isn't as much carnage at that section of the track, since it's one less braking zone. But it also means that since there's less slow corners, that the grid is going to be very close throughout the races and throughout qualifying. Heading into this one though, honestly not really looking forward to it. In the practice the day before, my pace didn't seem the best, and I just didn't seem to be able to get to grips with how to drive this track fast. Here in qualifying, it kind of shown we crossed the line set at 57.3 in 14th place, which is still only 8 tenths off current pole position at the moment, but 8 tenths around here is quite a lot, which we will see throughout these races. Trying to push on a bit then, invalidated that previous lap, and then on this one just pushing a bit too hard on the exit of turn 2 and running off the track. Just taking care, rejoining here now, and then starting our next lap, heading into turn 1. You can see up ahead Keith Dempsey going very slowly into turn 1, so a bit impeded here because I wasn't sure if he was actually on a fast lap because of how slow he was going into turn 1. So hasn't been the cleanest qualifying session here so far, with just under half the time remaining. And then on the very next lap into turn 1, carrying too much speed, and once again just sliding our way off into the grass. And as we get closer to the end of the session, I just wasn't able to get a clean lap together, and it all comes to a head here with 3 minutes left, just spinning off into the barrier. And after that I had time for just about one more lap, but with high fuel, so a heavier car, colder tyres and all of that, just pushing too hard, and once again our qualifying ends with our car in bits in the Armco, and we're going to be starting down the grid for race 1. So after a surprisingly good qualifying last week in round 1, down in 21st this time, and honestly it's not unexpected. I felt like my pace wasn't great around here, and even if you look at the gaps, 1 second off, surprise, Dara Halley on pole position, but last week I was a second off pole and I was in 9th place, so it just shows how the different tracks, how this one the margins are a lot closer because of the higher speed, less lower speed corners and a shorter lap. So hopefully we can try and move up the grid, see if our race pace is any better than our 1 lap pace, and try to do some damage limitation. So as the lights come on here for race 1, revs build up, lights go out, clutch goes down, and we are going here at Lime Rock Park. Pretty even start it seems for everyone, heading down the long run into turn 1, going to keep the inside line because the first 2 turns are right-hander, so keeping it nice and tight, don't let anybody down our inside. Exit of turn 2, then we have the space to defend the inside for turn 3, which we do. Ollie Meredith still manages to find the little gap that I did leave and go down our inside, getting the move done then around the outside. So honestly have to say, very good move there by Ollie, being aggressive then with Keith giving him a bit of a nudge before heading into the uphill section. Can be tricky there as the car gets a bit of airtime and goes very light going over the crest, so somewhere that the car can very easily be lost, and did so a lot of times in practice as we round the final corner. Then for the first lap on the exit, Nathan Sweeney had a big run on me there, but he runs into the back of me, which doesn't matter how good of a run you have, if you're going to crash into the back of someone you need to lift off. And then into turn 1, just like in round 1 with some other cars, just pushing and punting me out of the way to make sure he gets the move done. I honestly wanted to just dive it back down his inside there and repay the favour, but decided against that. But through the next turn, turn 4, just getting on the curb too much and going for a spin, and my saw there is reaching to my side. iRacing actually switched onto my other monitor for some reason while I was spinning there, so had to switch it back. But yeah, that spin pretty much fully because I was starting to lose my head a bit already because of that move in turn 1. Luckily no damage, just lost time, a lot of time, but we can try and fight back and get a couple more positions. Ross Wheatley and Jamal not too far up the road. Skipping ahead a little bit then, we've managed to stay with Ross, managed to close the gap a bit, and we're in the slipstream here, not close enough for a move into turn 1, but as the corner progresses, up ahead Jamal has a bit of a slide, then he goes for a spin. Luckily we don't get collected as he is rotating, but we get that move done, and now we are right on the back of Ross, and he doesn't have the slipstream that he has had from Jamal, so hopefully we can try and make a move pretty swiftly. And that is exactly what we're going to try and do. As you can see, the size of the gameplay has changed. Looking to the side because my screen switched over once again, so we were close enough there to probably have a go on Ross, but unfortunately I had to fix that, and he managed to get a couple of tenths ahead and stay ahead for the time being. Speeding it forward then a little bit just to see that there's an incident up ahead, so get past on there, as now we're going to get past a slow moving Jordan Kelly as well. We have a bit of a run on Ross, having a bit of a look to the inside, but heading into the turn 5 uphill. Wasn't going to try and go for a move there because it was probably going to end in tears. But we saw on the previous lap that we were able to stick nice and close. Through the second to last corner, getting a bit of a better run than Ross, so closing the gap a bit. Through the final turn, getting a bit of understeer, so not the greatest run, but we have the slipstream, a bit of overspeed, and as we close and close and close on Ross, pulling to the inside, letting our intentions be known, braking as late as I dare and with the inside line for turn 1, and then into turn 2 we get that position up into, now I think it is P22, so hasn't been the best race, but hopefully we can get a couple of more and get into the points in the top 20. On the very next lap we've caught up to the back of Nathan Sweeney, had a bit of a run but once again not able to do anything heading into turn 5. And if you remember that Nathan put a bit of an aggressive move on me earlier in the race, so going to try and repay that, still be fair but be firm and get the position done. He's a bit slow through the second to last corner, so back off a bit. I was expecting to stay in through the final turn, but he gets a good run through there, don't get a great run. Still in the slipstream and we're closing and closing, but not as close as we were to Ross on the previous lap. Nathan defends the inside, so I have a look to try and go around the outside or side by side, but unfortunately with the inside line he is able to keep the position now. He goes defensive once again into turn 3. That's going to compromise his line through turn 4, but I get a bit of understeer as well, not the greatest line, and he stays ahead. A lap later then, weren't able to get the move done on the pit straight, but once again Nathan has a compromised line through turn 4. This time he goes fully off the track, so we get an even better run. And heading into turn 5, I'm going to commit to it. We're side by side. I have the inside line, so take a bit of speed off. Luckily, with the inside line, we're able to kind of bully Nathan out of the way, get the move done. Now we're coming under pressure from Gary Corcoran. He had a look down the inside of the penultimate corner, but I was turning in no matter what there, because that's not really somewhere you want to try and make a move if you're not fully alongside. Luckily Gary backed out of it and we hold on to the position. Now with a lot of free track ahead, just going to try and run away. Heading down into turn 1, Gary does get very close but goes for a very ambitious dive then, and he ends up making contact with me and going for a spin. In my opinion, 100% not my fault there. I was entitled to go for the apex considering how far Gary was behind. He just broke late, and if he was going to get that move done, it was going to be a punt to pass like we've seen before in this race and in the previous round. So glad that I came out on the right side of one of those for a change. But this is the final lap of the race then, so we're going to stay on board. Coming around the second last corner, you have a good big gap behind now, so don't have to take any risks through the final turn onto the pit straight. We're going to come across the line and we're going to finish in P21. So 21st it was then, finishing where we started even after all of our issues, and getting a couple of points down to 23rd place in RTA. Up at the front, Ronan Doherty picking up where he left off after round 1, where he took 2 wins, taking the win here in race 1, and pole sitter Dara Halley down in 8th place. So difficult race for him. Hopefully he can recover from that in the next few races. Seems to have a bit of pace here today and in these cars. But for himself, hopefully we can keep it clean for this one and move up a couple of places and not backwards and not finish where we started again. So getting ready to go here for race 2, and if you look at the car directly ahead, the red lights come on and that's Ronan Duffy just jumping the start. Now the lights go out and everybody else gets going. Pretty decent start, we managed to jump Ronan and we are challenging Phil into turn 1. Have to feel sorry for Ronan there. It's something I'd say we've all done at some stage in iRacing. Just getting a bit confused by the lights going out and coming on and which ones we're supposed to go on. But it is what it is. Sure, he'll do his drive-through penalty and recover. For myself, after getting a couple of places here at the start, and seems to be pretty line astern up ahead. Nobody going for any desperate moves into turn 5. Actually, speaking of which, Ollie Meredith going for a move. And up ahead on the left hand side, you can see that's David Ward off the track, coming back on the track, making contact with Ollie. Ollie goes into Keith, and I can't really do too much to avoid Keith then bouncing back onto the track. And yeah, it was looking like a good start for us. Could have made up a couple of positions there, but just the position of my car on the track, we weren't able to avoid that, unfortunately. All caused by David going off track and not really taking too much care rejoining, which he did get a penalty for, which is fair. Can't really be doing that and ruining 3 or 4 people's races just because you don't want to lose too much time. But we're in P18 now after closing the gap to Jordan, who is usually up at the front of RTA, but he's down the grid here today because he's actually driving using a keyboard and mouse, so it's honestly a bit depressing that he's still not too much slower than me when he's using a keyboard and a mouse and I'm on my wheel, but it is what it is. But as we come over the crest of the hill of turn 5, there's an incident up ahead. There's cars all over the track. Luckily they weren't on the racing line and managed to avoid all of that. But coming over the top of the hill there, at the last second, crew chief said there was an incident, so I was a bit aware, but still, coming over a blind crest and there's cars all over the track. lucky to not get involved in any of that. We do gain a couple of positions from that, and we are up into, I think it's P16. Next lap then, Ross was after having a poor run through turn 4, and that allows Jordan to get past. I did have a run, but I didn't want to go up the inside of turn 5, so we stay behind for the time being, and hopefully we can try and get the pass done into turn 1. Through the second to last corner, we get a good run there and have a bit of a look down the inside of the final turn, but wasn't going to go for it there. And it wasn't the greatest choice because it meant I didn't have the momentum down the pitch straight. But that means that Emma, who is a lap behind, is now down my inside into turn 1. And if you watched the previous episode, you might remember how I didn't get involved with cars that were laps ahead, and I mentioned that some people take a different approach as Jordan gets a bit out of shape there, so I managed to get past him. But yeah, Emma's deciding to fight cars that are a lap or 2 laps ahead while they're in the middle of a fight, which I suppose you're entitled to do, but have a bit of sportsmanship maybe, and if there's people having a battle, don't get involved with it. I didn't even get involved with the car that was lap ahead of me that was faster than last week, and they weren't even in a fight. So yeah, each to their own, I suppose. Anyone can do what they want, it's just maybe use a bit of common sense sometimes. But now we get a run on Ross down into turn 1, down the inside, braking as late as I dare, and with the inside line through turn 1 and turn 2 we are able to get the move done. Actually don't know where Ross is after disappearing to, as now Emma goes for a dive down her inside into turn 3, and honestly, yeah, I'm not going to say anything because there's no point in saying anything, but moving on, Emma managed to get the move done into turn 1 on the next lap. At least this time she's not getting in between cars that are having a fight. Probably best that she goes ahead before she causes a crash with somebody. There's an incident up ahead, not sure what that really was, but Peter McCann in the blue and white car a little bit up the road is a lot closer to us now than he was before, so I assume he was involved in some way or another. But fast forwarding ahead to the end of that lap, through the final corner, I get a load of understeer and just about avoid the tyre barrier, but then not able to keep control of the car. End up spinning into the barrier. Our bonnet is not the way our bonnet should be, and I decide to pull to the side to the track and get towed back to the pits. Back out on track then, and we were ahead of Ronan in the lead of the race, and I probably should have got out of the way earlier on that lap, but I felt like it was probably safer to just wait to the pit straight and let him go there. Just didn't want to get out of the way somewhere where I would have then had to stop and let everybody else behind pass into one go and maybe be a bit of a hazard. And then on the very next lap, Sean and Robbie, a couple of the others who are also on the lead lap fighting for higher positions, just getting out of their way safely on the pitch straight too. But then heading into turn 1, because I was a bit distracted, I downshift way too much down into first gear at too high revs and blow up the engine, and that is my race over. So ended up finishing in 25th, usually my lucky number, but not very lucky this time. And yeah, 4 laps behind, outside of the points, and very disappointing really when you see the likes of Jordan Kelly there in 13th. I was ahead of him, so there was minimum a 13th place finish on the card for me in this one. So disappointing, but my own silly mistakes that cost me there. Ronan Doherty taking the win 2 rounds in a row now, where he's taken the win in race 1 and race 2, so seems to be on a bit of a charge, making a bit of a statement this season in the MX5s. And yeah, for myself, hopefully we can try and get a good result in this longer race. A lot of carnage in that race, so hopefully a bit more in this one, and we can keep it clean and take advantage. Okay, for the final time then, revs up, lights on and lights out here at Lime Rock Park. And we get a pretty good start this time, probably the best start we've had this round. Directly ahead, Gary Corcoran seems to be pretty aggressive with trying to get the slipstream into turn 1, just like we have done all round, taking the inside line, the shorter line for the first 2 corners, and we get a couple of moves there, and then into turn 3 going to take a defensive line to not get passed down the inside. 2 by 2 up ahead looks like, so could be a compromised exit here out of turn 4, but unfortunately not enough that we're able to get any positions done. Right up to the back of Ollie Meredith, doesn't go for any desperate lunges into turn 5 on this start, so don't get any places there. But into the second to last corner then, he does dive it down the inside of David Prunty, and he just narrowly avoids hitting into the front of him and send the 2 of them for a spin. And then into the final corner, I was side by side with David, so we go down the inside there. Bit of contact I think, but I think it was a fair move, as that does allow Gary Corcoran to get a good run into turn 1. He has the inside line, trying to hold it around the outside, being very aggressive, pushing him as tight as I can, but he manages to get the place with the tighter line. So an exciting opening lap here of race 3, and luckily we've managed to keep it relatively clean, and we're still fighting in this race, pointing in the right direction. The excitement is going to continue through turn 5. Gary goes a bit wide there, we get a good run. Our car goes very light over the crest, and we luckily manage to keep it pointing in the right direction as we then go a bit wide. Brandon McCockman, who is a lot faster than I am, don't know what he's doing down here, down our inside of the final turn, as up ahead it's all getting very feisty. Gary and Paul Sheehan side by side into turn 1 as Peter Griffin car is looking to move. Bit of a late move there, cutting in front of me by Brandon, but all clean and everything here. But into turn 3 then, I was taking it nice and cautiously, somebody that wasn't as Philip Upson. I was taking a defensive line there because the cars up ahead were fighting, going a bit slowly. I didn't want to be passed down the inside, and Philip drives into the back of me. Luckily we're still going, bit of damage to the rear of the car, which is probably going to affect our stability for the remainder of this race, but going to keep it going and see what we can get out of this one. For this now, I want you to look at the group of cars up ahead, because I saw 3 wide and I remember saying to myself, this is going to end in tears, and that is exactly what happened. 2 cars there, I'm not sure who it was, but after taking each other out, we get 2 positions for free heading up the hill. At the start of the very next lap then, we're after getting 1 position from somebody being off in turn 1, and then up ahead there's another crash. 3 cars involved there, we get past 2 of them. I think it's CJ and Jamal involved in an accident. Yeah, moving on then, I think it was Jordan Kelly, or could have been Peter actually. Yeah, Peter also involved in that, so we're after closing up to him. He is just ahead of David Prunty, so hopefully we can try and battle the 2 of these boys and get up into the top 20. So we're actually already in the top 20, and at this point of the race I was thinking to myself that there could be a top 15 result on the cards with how things are going, but we are coming under pressure from CJ O'Sullivan behind. And now into turn 3, Paul Sheehan, who's a lap down, just coming back onto the track there. I wasn't sure if he's going to fully come back on, so I had to back out of that, and that allows CJ to get past. But there's a crash up ahead. There's a car on the track. That was Ronan Doherty, and his car looked like it was stopped, so I was going to go to the right hand side, and just as I committed to doing that, he started to reverse back off the track, which is, I suppose, the right thing to do, but not when there's cars coming, and luckily we managed to avoid that. Don't know if we lost any positions, but we haven't gained any, that's for sure. But luckily we're still in this race and live to fight another day, as now we are coming up to the back of Ross Wheatley, who I think was involved in that collision and has lost a couple of positions. into turn 1. He goes very wide there. We slip down the inside of turn 2 and get that move done up into 17th. 3 cars battling up ahead. Hopefully we can try and catch up to those and get involved as well. But unfortunately it wasn't really able to. We come through a lot of debris on the track there, so could be a couple of positions to gain here. But yeah, we weren't really able to catch up. They were pulling away a little bit per lap. I think there was a car there off on the right hand side, so we've gained a position. But yeah, only really starting to close in a little bit now because they were starting to battle a bit with a bit of lap traffic in Sean McClellan's, so it's not just some people who decide to get involved in battles when they're left behind.
We just cut the track.
But yeah, hopefully now they can keep battling and we can close in, but not really too hopeful for that. I just don't really think I have the pace to catch up on those guys.
5 minutes left.
And that was the case, but luckily for me they decided to make it pretty easy by taking each other out. Peter McCann spun off the track there, I think, and then Ronan Duffy going very slowly, and we managed to scoot past down the inside. Unfortunately at the end of that lap though, Ronan Doherty, who we nearly absolutely clean out when he was sideways across the track, is down our inside and ahead of us. Just shows how much pace the leaders have compared to me. As we've seen, Ronan won 2 races last week, won the first 2 races this week, and yeah, some serious pace for him compared to myself anyway, and that goes for a lot of the top guys in this series. But on the final lap there was time for one more twist in the tail of this one, as through turn 3, 2 cars off the track, CJ O'Sullivan and Jordan Kelly, who was in the top 10 using a controller and, or not a controller, a mouse and a keyboard. It's just madness really. He obviously just kept it clean and managed to get past all the incidents, but still to have some sort of pace using that is pretty incredible, and just shows the skill that Jordan has in racing. Doesn't need to be with pedals and a wheel. But through the final corner then, coming up to the line, we are going to finish race 3 in a very surprising P13.
P13, that's the finish. Well done.
So 13th it was then in the end, up 12 positions from where it started, just 37 seconds basically behind Robbie Callaghan, who took the race win, and Conor Mealy in second. Evan Walsh rounded out the podium, so very good result I think, considering how the first 2 races went. Just keeping it clean, picking my battles, battling hard when I needed to, and yeah, pretty much just keeping it clean is what set up this good result. And what this means for the standings then after 2 rounds is that I am down in 24th place, even after a half decent maybe round race 3 kind of made up for still losing a place in the standings. The likes of Sean McClellan's and Campto moving into the top 20 in their first race of the season. So with how my pace seems this season, how comfortable I am or uncomfortable I am with the car, I usually try and aim for a top 15, but I think if I can try and get into the top 20 come season's end, then it would be a good result, as long as I can take some learnings and improve as a driver throughout the season. But that is it for this video. I hope you did enjoy. Next round at Donington I won't be racing in since I am on holidays, so the next video from me will be round 4 in mid-Ohio. So until then, make sure you leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss it. But thanks for watching, and see you then.